Wait a second. What just happened? Oh, I'm excited. I'm playing around. I'm loving what I see. I love how I feel. Today, I'm going to be testing some new drugstore makeup from Physicians Formula. The brand just launched a handful of new products from both their Matte Manoi butter line and their Butter Believe It makeup line. I'm also going to be sharing some updated thoughts on their past butter collection products. So we're going to get straight into it. But first, if you're new here, hi, my name is Miranda. Welcome to my channel where we talk all things budget beauty. If that sounds interesting to you, then become the newest member of the Slashed Squad by hitting subscribe and the bell icon. Okay, I'm actually going to start out with a non-Physicians Formula product because this has been a go-to primer of mine in winter. This is the Milani Skin Quench Hydrating Primer. It is a hyaluronic acid and coconut water primer. And honestly, I feel like Milani in general is killing it in the primer category. I love all of their new primers. They have an SPF one that's really nice, and their pore filling one is amazing. But this has just been nice because my skin has felt definitely a bit drier lately. And honestly, this just feels like a nice skincare product versus a typical primer. So first, let's revisit one of the brand's butter launches from last year. This is the Physicians Formula Butter Believe It Foundation Plus Concealer. This is a full coverage foundation, and I really, really love it besides the fact that it's so heavily fragranced. And I know that's like part of the fun of the butter collection, but especially because it says for all skin types, heavily fragranced face products are not for all skin types. That's my main gripe with this foundation, because other than that, the formula is actually amazing. The color match for me personally is amazing. I'm using light to medium. Actually, I always have to remind myself to be a little bit more light-handed with this foundation because it has so much coverage. You do not need a lot. And it is on, that creamy side. So if you over apply and build it up too much, I do notice that it can settle in fine lines, especially I see that in my laugh lines. If I prime like I did today, and I'm just a little bit more careful about blending in that area, then it does pretty well. The coverage lasts all day, and as you can see, the coverage is nearly full in one layer. Now, I don't feel like I've experienced like breakouts or anything from the fragrance in this, at least none that I can like pinpoint to this foundation. So take that for what it's worth. So the first of their new butter products that I want to try today is their new Butter Believe It Pressed Powder. This is a powder that you're supposed to be able to use either alone or on top of makeup. Obviously, I'll be using it on top today as more of a setting powder. Now, I'm not sure if this comes in different shades. They sent me Creamy Natural. It says this is an ultra luxurious translucent pressed powder infused with the exclusive butter blend to deliver a radiant, natural looking glow. Incredibly creamy and soft texture combines the best features of a powder and cream for a lasting, buttery smooth, skin enhancing finish unlike any other. I kind of want to swatch it just to see like how much color is there if you were to use this on its own. So just kind of mixing all of these little sections together. Okay, that's actually really hard to swatch because it matches my skin exactly. I can see a bit of coverage here. Let's try to put it over my foundation to set. It's always that like, the first open of these products is so pungent. Interesting. I feel like this is a different scent than what I recognize as the Butter Collection fragrance. It's almost more floral, which I know the Matte Manoi products typically have. I don't know if I like it. And that's another problem, like aside from just having sensitive skin, when you're putting a scented product all over your face, if you don't like the scent, then it's kind of hard to escape. Ooh, but I love what this powder's doing to my skin. Whoa. Whoa. Where'd you put my pores? Can you see my pores? Because I can't. I feel like it did slightly mattify, but there is still just the most subtle hint of radiance going on so that my face doesn't look flattened. Yeah, I really like this finish. Okay. Now, as far as, you know, layering it on top of my foundation, I don't feel like it altered my shade at all, but it's definitely not a translucent powder. Like, there is color there. So if anything, I think it just added a little bit more to what I already had from the foundation. I don't know, but as of now, this finish is beautiful and very much on par with some of my higher end pressed powders. Like, this is looking almost as smooth as my It Cosmetics Bye Bye Pores pressed powder. Yeah, I'm impressed so far. Okay, this next product I am extremely nervous to test out. This is the new Physicians Formula Butter Palm Feathered Micro Brow Pen. I've talked about brow pens several times here, and I just don't feel like it's a product for me. I think especially because of the way that my brows grow and the technique that I use to fill them in, pens just look a little weird for me. If you see on my natural brows, like right after my arch, the tail of my brow is actually pretty thin, so I have to sort of fill that top part in. And I find that with a pen, it just looks very, very much Sharpie because it's just ink on skin. This is supposed to be an ultra precise, transfer resistant and smudge resistant and budge resistant micro brow pen. It's infused with keratin. So let me just go ahead and brush my brows upward first. And that kind of fills in that empty spot that I was talking about after my arch. Okay, it is a brush tip, so that's nice. Ooh, I wish they would make an eyeliner like this. I did not even check to see what color this was. Universal brown. Okay, we'll see about that. So with pen style brow products, I typically just kind of go upward. Ooh, I'm already screwing up here. Basically like drawing on individual hair strokes. But again, this is not my preferred method of filling in my brow, so I'm not the best at it or the most practiced at it. I like that it's not going on really heavy, but I would not call this universal brown. It is a light, warm brown. I think the fact that it is a little bit sheer helps, but again, because of the shape of my brow and the fact that I kind of need to apply this over bare skin, it looks very clockable because my brows are a very cool dark brown. It's okay. I feel like it's very clear where I used the pen because of the color difference, but okay, for this side, I'm really trying to go in with just the point of the pen to get even smaller strokes to see if that helps. Because I think on this side, I was getting a lot of the base, and that was just creating blobby type strokes. I think it's helping a little bit. Okay, this eyebrow is not looking as choppy. The color difference, though, is still a little obvious. Okay. Didn't really exceed my expectations, which were pretty low anyway, so. Okay, I'm gonna go in with the NYX Brow Glue just to sort of shape my brows in the direction that I want them and hopefully make this look a little less like disjointed. This is one of the very few brow gels that can really lift and feather my brow hairs because they're so thick and stubborn. They just want to lay in the direction they grow. But it has its downsides because of that. It's very thick. It's easy to over apply and there's a bit of like a cast to it as it sets. So that's sort of the trade-off. But see, as I brush my brows up in this very trendy feather brow style, the pen kind of blends in better underneath my brow hairs. They're not as evident on their own. It definitely looks better kind of as a shadow to my natural brow so that you can't see the pen outline that I drew like directly on my skin. I think in the realm of brow pens, it's not bad. I like the fact that it's a brush tip because I know some brow pens are still using felt, and the fact that it's a bit sheer because I have definitely used brow pens that just go on like a brown liquid liner. That's helpful in making it look more natural and less Sharpie-like. I would say that if you are a fan of brow pens and you already use them, then this might be one that you actually really enjoy. All right, grabbing another Milani primer just to prep my eyes for the next new butter launch. These next couple products are probably what I am most excited to try out. We have two new eyeshadow palettes from Physicians Formula. Now, we do not get a lot of eyeshadow launches from the brand. I feel like they do really put an emphasis on their face and complexion makeup, so was very stoked to see these as part of the new releases. So we have one palette from the Matte Manoi Butter Collection. This is in Matte Blushed Nudes. It is all matte shades. And then we have one from the Butter Believe It collection. This is called Bronzed Nudes, and we have a mix of what looks like shimmer, metallic, and matte shades. Now, another difference that I'm seeing is that the Matte Manoi palette is labeled cruelty-free and vegan, whereas the Butter Believe It palette is only labeled cruelty-free. Now, I'm not going to use both of these palettes in this video, but I will swatch them both for you just so you can see what each of them looks like. But I do think that I'm going to be testing out the Butter Believe It palette in the Bronzed Nudes version. I really want to test the mix of finishes here. I would classify this as like a cool toned bronze palette. So I think I'm gonna go into what looks like this medium taupe shade. Ooh, a lot of pigment straight off the bat. Next, I'm gonna go into this deepest and smallest shade. That's gonna go in my crease. I feel like maybe they put this in thinking it would be more of a liner color because of how small it is, because it's a little hard to get a crease brush in there. I really like the amount of pigment I'm getting from these shades. They're like not too dark that you over apply right away, but definitely buildable and extremely blendable. They are just blending so smoothly in with one another. Yeah, this is deepening up really nicely, and I haven't even dipped back into the color yet. I like that I'm also not losing pigmentation as I blend this out and just diffuse the edges. Really happy with how this is turning out. Now, the packaging says that these can be applied either wet or dry, and wait a second, what just happened? Where did the eyeshadow just go? Wait. Oh no. No. Okay, so I found the eyeshadow. I'm kind of doing my best to like really put pressure here so that it doesn't do that again, but I also didn't see like a glue dot or anything. Like the actual product came out of the pan. All right. As I was saying, I want to see how the foil or metallic shades do with a wet application. So why don't I just do a side by side on the back of my hands. I'm gonna go into this really, really pretty champagne shade. Honestly, very intense dry. Really, really soft and buttery texture. Now I'm gonna wet my finger with some setting spray. So this is dry, this is wet. It definitely gives it a little bit more of an opaque look, a little bit of a boost to that glowy shine. It doesn't exactly foil the shadow though, so to me it's not a huge difference. So I'm just gonna go in with a dry brush and see how this goes. Ooh, yeah, honestly, you don't need to wet your brush. Very, very beautiful, all on its own, super intense. Wow, I love that. I feel like I haven't really been on the train with a lot of the new Physicians Formula launches. Like their Butter Buddies collection just didn't really do it for me, but these, like, I'm excited. I'm playing around. I'm loving what I see. I love how I feel, or how the product feels, also how I feel. Yeah, this is quality eyeshadow, except for the one that fell out. Okay, now going into this teeny tiny metallic sort of rose gold shade, I'm gonna use that to highlight. Ooh, that one is like almost a glitter shade actually. Okay, not what I expected, but not complaining now that I know what that shade is about. I'm gonna put that in the inner corner as well. I love how this eyeshadow look came out. I mean, it's very much, you know, a neutral goldish bronzy eye. Nothing, you know, super unique color-wise, but this formula is great. I think a couple of things that could be improved with this is perhaps the issue of the eyeshadow falling out, and I'd just be a little wary traveling with this, even though the size and the color selection makes it a pretty good on-the-go option. It's just that it's very flimsy packaging. It's cardboard. It has a very light magnetic closure, and then this, which is right above the shades, it's just this very thin kind of plastic barrier. So if this like dropped like this, there's really not much protection for the actual shadows. Now, how much is this? At Ulta, this is $12.49. Obviously, not knowing the price, I said that they're very great quality. I think for the price, they could have put this in better packaging for sure. I would be a little less like about it if I didn't think that this was going to break the first time I drop it, because it broke without me dropping it. Another slight butter throwback to their last collection of butter launches. This is the Physicians Formula Matte Manoi Butter Eyeliner. So I tested this out and I actually really like the formula. It's a very dark and rich and opaque black liquid liner that has a flat matte finish, which is my favorite for liquid eyeliner. And I was super excited that they decided to do a pot and brush packaging. However, the brush is extremely blunt. The brush is kind of like squared off or flat at the tip. It's not pointed or tapered. Makes for a pretty rough time doing a cat eye because it's so blunt. Also, the stopper in here is like non-existent, so I always come out of the pot with this much product on the brush. So it's also a game of like keeping enough on the brush so that you get a good glide, but not enough that it just ends up globbing. Oh, okay. So I wiped off way too much because it's not gliding on very well. Not so bad. There's like a little bit of a weird skip in there where I think the brush kind of rotated. The reason I don't reach for it a lot is because of that dance where it's hit or miss whether or not the shape of my liner is going to be, one, what I want it to be, and two, even on both sides. Not bad. I just feel like I can get these results in half the time with my NYX Epic Ink Liner. Now, I will have to watch the footage back of the first time that I tried this, but this I'm actually not smelling fragrance on. I don't know if it was ever there, because typically the butter scent sticks around for a while and I'm not smelling it at all in the liner, which I'm happy about. I do not need fragrance in my eyeliner. Now, around the time the eyeliner and the foundation came out, they also launched a butter mascara, which was fragranced. And I did do a first impression of that. I don't have a tube on me now, but I just wasn't really impressed with it. I didn't feel like it did a lot for my lashes. So just for the sake of finishing this look, I'm gonna go in with my Maybelline Sky High Mascara. Finishing off the face with what is still my absolute favorite face palette ever. This is the Physicians Formula Butter Collection and Weylie face palette. This contains 2 butter bronzers, 2 butter blushes, and 2 butter highlighters. Now, I'm gonna be using the bronzers and the highlighters today. We do have a couple new blushes. So I'm gonna tap into what they call... Are you kidding me right now? What is happening? Okay, y'all, that was tragic. Great, just great. Yeah, so I don't know if that's like a product flaw with the butter formula, if it's a little soft for staying in the pan. So as I was saying, I'm using the Sunset Bronzer in this palette, and that's my kind of contour bronzer shade. So I do put it in the contour areas, but I'm also kind of bringing it up, warming up the face with it as well. Oops, that was a big dot. Like, the look is going well. It's just a lot's happening. Okay, we have 2 new blush choices. We have the Matte Monoi Butter Blush. This is in Mauve Mattes. And then this is the Butter Believe It Blush in Pink Sands. Oh, you know what it smells like? It's almost like Pepto-Bismol or like Flintstones vitamins. It's like that weird, almost medicinal sweetness. This is the matte Manoi one. Yeah, the regular butter one is a little better. So they do both look matte. The matte Manoi blush has a little bit of deeper tones that I personally think are gonna work better for my skin tone. The Butter Believe It blush just looks a bit light for me. Now this is obviously like a mix of different pinks that you can kind of tap into and try to isolate. I'm just seeing what the overall shade is if I kind of mix it. Ooh, that's pretty. Yeah, I like that. When you mix it, it does have a little bit of a warmth to it, even though the base is more of a cool mauve. Ooh, that is actually a lot more pigmented than I thought it was gonna be. Okay, I think I'm gonna need to actually blend with a clean brush in order to take off a little excess. Wow, that was my bad. Yeah, I think the formula is just so soft that I picked up way more than I thought on my brush. But wow, that is really pretty. Okay, I'm a fan. Yeah, it still looks extremely smooth. It's blending into my powdered foundation really nicely. No patchiness. Well, back into the Butter palette with the one remaining highlighter. And it is a warm champagne. Is anything else breaking? I just saw something crumble. Ooh, yeah, that complements really well. It's so beautiful. Now I am aware that there is a new butter lip product, but it is a part of a completely new collection, which is called Bread and Butter, which I think is kind of funny because the butter collection is definitely the bread and butter of Physicians Formula. Unfortunately, I have not received those yet, so I am just gonna finish the look with a little bit of liner and gloss. I also wanna say that with this primer and the powder, I'm already seeing a huge difference in how the butter foundation performs, because at this point in my routine, I would usually already see noticeable creasing in my laugh lines, and I'm seeing zero. I've been loving this liner and gloss combo, by the way. I used the Milani Understatement liner in Desert Rose and the NYX Butter Gloss in Bit of Honey. Now, I did talk about the cost of the new eyeshadow palettes, which are $12.50, but the new blush is $11.99. It's still a little high for a blush in my opinion. The butter eyeliner is about $10. The butter foundation's about $11, and the brow pen is also about $10.50 to $11. So it seems like everything here is priced between $10 and $13. You know, Physicians has never been the cheapest brand at the drugstore, but I do feel like they are competing with, you know, these great formulas from other brands that are offering them at much cheaper prices. Like, you know, one example that comes to mind is the Essence 8 shadow palettes that are $4.99, $3.99. So I'm curious to know what you think about that, although I have noticed that at the drugstore, all prices across the board have been rising, so that's also important to keep in mind. I gotta say, I'm pretty impressed with most of these new releases. I think everything was a win for me besides the brow pen, and that's not really saying much about the product itself, just my own preferences. Out of this new drugstore makeup, what caught your eye the most? Let me know in the comments below. Today's shout out goes to Anna. Thanks for being a member of the Slashed Squad. And join me over in this video next for my makeup palette declutter part 2, where I do my larger eyeshadow palettes and face palettes. I'll see you over there. Bye!